We've seen some amazing rounds, by my count, at least 40 companies at over $1 billion valuation and still private. Is this as simple as the ducks are quacking, feed them?
I don't think it's that simple. You know, I think one stat we tracked last year was, I think we saw the number of companies that were able to raise their first funding at $1 billion valuation more than double last year. I think, you know, for Uber, I think it reflects sort of investor confidence in its growth. You know, one stat we've heard is Uber doing almost $500 million of revenue in San Francisco alone. If you sort of imagine that across the hundreds of cities in the 54 countries that they operate in, you can sort of imagine what investors are sort of salivating over. I think for Snapchat's case, it's sort of about monetizing this massive user base they've grown to. Some reports have been 200 million active users. No word on engagement. They could be staggering as well. So now you're seeing Snapchat with Discover launch a new product, beginning to trickle in with advertising. So investors there are sort of hoping that you can sort of see sort of Facebook or Twitter type monetization of this massive audience that's been able to capture.
David Kirkpatrick, are Facebook and Twitter the appropriate comps when we look at Snapchat?
Well, you know, the funny thing to me is just how much messaging is going on out there. I mean, it's really WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger are the comps in some respects. I do think there is an astonishing appetite among investors to find better returns than they can get in traditional investments, which, you know, and there's clearly just an availability issue. Supply is really, of finance is gigantic, and these companies are taking advantage of it. Snapchat, though, has done an extraordinary job targeting this young demographic, and they're really offering something that is different than Facebook in that it's not based on, to use the word targeting again, data about you. It's just allowing you to be yourself. This is the way they think about it at Snapchat, and they want you to, you know, feel that you're not being tracked, that you're not only do your photos ostensibly disappear, although they do allow you to save them if you want to with screenshots, but they're basically saying they're not even going to monetize by using personal data the way that Facebook totally makes its business. And so they think they have more of a TV kind of model where just the sheer numbers are going to allow them to make a lot of money by showing people media, which they're now starting to do, and advertising.
Yeah, you know, when I brought up with our staff the idea that I wanted to talk about messaging when it came to Snapchat, David, the people on our team at Bloomberg West who use Snapchat, like, I don't think of it as messaging really. It's its own kind of thing. But when I look at what's going on in the world of text messaging for all the major carriers, whether it's AT&T or Verizon or American Mobile or China Mobile or whatever, SMS messaging is going in the tank. It's falling on a year-over-year basis.
Yeah.
Where the world outside of that, whether it's Apple iMessage, Facebook Messenger, or Snapchat, is growing at over 100%.
This is a more sophisticated sort of messaging. You know, just one interesting thing too. There's a Chinese role in all these deals. I don't know if you've picked that up, but you know, Snapchat already has a significant backing from Tencent. There was some talk Tencent might want to buy them at some point. Baidu is one of the players in this new round in Uber. Meanwhile, Alibaba is an investor in Lyft. You know, which is the competitor to Uber. And at the same time, the two biggest taxi hailing companies in China, which were backed respectively by Tencent and Alibaba, are now merging. So there's all kinds of amazing, and that is Uber's biggest challenge in China. One of the reasons they need to raise a lot of money, because their top global competitor is actually this newly merged Chinese combination of the two gigantic local firms that are competing with Uber.
And maybe a big Chinese investment in some ways means something of a blessing, he said on you know, Ash Wednesday, something of a blessing for these companies to do business in China. Matthew Wong, let me ask you, when we look at Uber, thank you, David, for turning us back to Uber, we look at them raising a round that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and never seems to close. Is what we see here from these guys, real quick, trying to compete with or suck the oxygen dry so Lyft can't get in there and do a similarly big round?
You know, it's interesting. Well, and now there's reports that Lyft is going to be raising an extra $250 million. We did an analysis of sort of 62 late-stage investors who may be an investor, who may, you know, be possible to invest in Lyft. And Uber has actually taken a lot of these investors. So these are, you know, the BlackRocks, the Fidelities, the TPGs
right.
of the world. As David mentioned, you already saw sort of the merger of Kuaidi and Didi. That's basically 90% of the Chinese ride-sharing market. And on the other side, you also have SoftBank, who's a big investor in Ola, as well.
We're going to leave it there. Matthew Wong.